Hey, what's up? Jeff Lerner here, and today we're going to talk about how to get started investing in real estate. So I've been investing in real estate for, 40 now? I don't know, maybe like 14, 15 years. I started in my mid-20s. And I talk a lot about investing in real estate. It's something that I'm really focused on now as part of like my next 10, 20 years. I've frankly had some hiccups and haven't been able to do it as consistently as I've wanted to. What I'm building, my intent here is to show how real estate is like the ultimate long game. So I'm not sitting here boo-hooing that, in the last 5 years I wasn't able to buy as many properties as I wanted. I'm just excited that in my mid-20s, I started planting seeds that are growing and sprouting, and through the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur and having good times and bad times, the real estate has been growing and it's been consistent. And now that I'm 40, now that I'm, a lot of things are lined up, I'm saying, okay, I can grow this. Wait, give me 10 years, give me 20 years. Like I'm not a billionaire real estate investor here teaching this video yet, but what I know is the same things that I'm doing now or that I've done for the last several years, all I got to do is keep doing them. And so I want to talk to you about how, I own about 25 properties. And certainly I'm like really stoked about that, but I don't own thousands and thousands of units. But what I've learned from owning 25 properties is how to acquire properties, how to use leverage and play the long game. But the hardest thing about getting into real estate, and this video is not meant to be like an exhaustive tutorial on real estate investing, but the hardest thing about getting into real estate is just that first deal. It's getting over that hump. That's what I see most people never doing. The best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago. The next best time to buy real estate is right now. Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. That's like the classic real estate investor's adage. And you've got to hear the truth of it. And so the point of this video is to tell you a little bit about how I got started and what it is that I see that stops people from just getting started. Because even over the last 10 years, I've had some years that were not that pretty, but there was a bedrock, there was a foundation of rental real estate where I was getting paid. I could be sick, I could have a broken back, I could be in traction in a hospital bed, and somebody's paying rent. Every day, every week, every month, I'm still getting paid. And that's available to everyone. There's as many houses as there are people, and then living units and commercial and multifamily, like literally every single person could be buying real estate, and yet most people aren't. That's what this video is hopefully going to inspire at least a few people to change. So let's talk about what I did, what were the things that were told to me to do that allowed me to get started buying rental properties when I was in my mid-20s. Now, because I'm now, reasonably well known as an internet business person and I've had some successes, people assume that I started buying real estate once I started making, pretty good money. People just kind of assume that. But the fact is, I started buying real estate when I was like 25. And when I was in my mid-20s, I was a struggling jazz piano player, never made more than $40,000 a year for the entire decade of my 20s, or till I was 29. That was when I started marketing on the internet and started a digital business. But in my 20s even, I was able to buy real estate. And it's because, look, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I read some books, I went to a seminar, but most importantly, I met a guy. And the way I met this guy was because I was a starving artist, a poor musician. I was out renting a house. I had to rent a house with 3 other musicians. So there were 4 guys living in like a 1,500 square foot house in Houston, Texas. And the landlord, the property manager that rented us the house, I started talking to him about, so how does this work? Who owns this and who's making money? And it turned out he owned a property management company. He was also an attorney. He was also a really active real estate investor. And he kind of mentored me at an early age, I guess, mid-20s. And I was, like I said, I was just this kind of struggling, starving musician who was, living with 3 other people. I certainly wasn't his favorite tenant because we had a drum set and we were loud and I had dogs, but I guess he saw some promise and he kind of started telling me, he's like, listen, man, you need to start planting some seeds now because this real estate investing thing could completely change the trajectory of your life. But you're young, so start. And it doesn't matter how old you are, the advice is always the same. Start now, right? That's the fourth point I wrote down here. Start now. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Next best time, right now. But here's what he said. He said, you're actually in a great position because you're living poor. He said, you got 3 roommates. I think the rent in the house was like $1,600 a month. So my share of it was $400 a month. That was it. He said, keep your overhead as low as humanly possible. Even as a musician making $40,000 a year, if your rent's $400 and you live, eat cheap food and, just keep your bills down, he's like, you might be able to save $1,000 a month. Well, $1,000 a month over the course of 2 years is $24,000. And so that's the second point here, forced savings. Whatever you got to do to take money off the top, forego the TV, forego Dish Network, forego Hulu, forego Netflix. Most of us are subscribed to like 4 streaming video services. Kill them all if you have to. Like cut back, do whatever you got to do to get to where every month there's some money left at the end of the month. Most of us, there's too much month at the end of our money. You need to have money at the end of your month that comes off the top. Don't save it at the end of the month if it's left over. Save it at the first of the month so that spending it's never even an option. That's what they call forced savings. As soon as your paycheck comes in, talk to your employer. Do whatever you got to do to even say, hey, send 10% of my money into this other account that I don't even see, right? Do something, and a lot of banks will let you set up forced transfers where it happens automatically. Do whatever you got to do to save some money every month and live as dirt poor as you can to get at least a base to be able to get that first down payment for that first house. And yeah, you can leverage credit, and there's whole books written about how to buy buy real estate with no money. I will tell you from my experience, that's dicey. It's dicey to try to get into real estate when you have no cash, because what happens if you buy the property and your tenant's about to move in and the AC goes out? Your tenant's about to move in and the water heater bursts and it floods and you got to rip out the carpet. Like there's always these things that happen where you need at least $1,000, $2,000 in cash. So, do whatever you got to do to figure out how to save up 10, 20, 30 grand and get into that first house. And the key is protect your credit. And you might be saying, well, Jeff, that's all hard. It's hard to live poor and be super disciplined and force myself to save money. And since I'm, saving my money and not spending my money, to resist the temptation to buy stuff I can't afford on credit. I'm trying to live poor, but let me not run up credit cards, or you want to strategically use credit. Well, yeah, it's hard. You know what? Being successful is hard. You know what? Living is hard. You know what? Being one of the relatively few people that kicks ass in this world and that doesn't end up like Joe Average bum is hard. That's why most people don't do it. So immediately get out of your mind the counter argument that, well, anything he's saying is hard. If you accept that, you already lost. This is hard. It was hard for me. It'll be hard for you. Live poor, force yourself to save money, but for the love of God, protect your credit. I work with a lot of people. Now I'm blessed that, a lot of people come to me, and I do coaching and I do training and I do education. And it is such a different scenario for me to try to help somebody who doesn't have access to capital, other people's money. Other people's money is like the linchpin of business success in this world, especially in buying real estate. You need to get access to capital, and you need to get access to it at good interest rates. Over the life of owning your first rental property, the difference between going in and trying to make some loan work when you had a 640 credit score versus going in with a 720 or a 740 credit score is literally can be the difference over a 5 or 10 year life of your first property. It could be a 20, 30, 50, $100,000 difference between the pay down of the principal of the note, the opportunity to reinvest the differential of what you're not paying out in interest by taking the rents and investing it into your next property. Like you build leverage little tiny bits at a time early in the game that grow through the power of compounding. So the lower you get your cost of capital, because the better your credit, it will that little bit of shaving now, a little bit of saving, a little bit of shaving will compound into so much 10, 20 years down the road. That's it. That's how I got started. I was a broke ass piano player, but I was super blessed and thank heavens that my landlord was like, You got to do this or your life's going to be hard. Take it from, he was a big real estate investor. Okay, so to this day now, this guy manages about a dozen of my properties now to this day. I literally was texting with him today. He's still a friend. 15 years later, I was this, punk musician kid that he rented a house to, and now I'm one of his, larger property management clients down in Houston where he's based. Like, these stories happen. This is how it works, but you got to take action. You got to get started now, and you have to decide now. Like, your real estate investment career starts now. It doesn't start once you have the money. It doesn't start once it's a good time. It doesn't start once your life calms down. It doesn't start once it seems easier. Because if you're waiting for those things, it'll never start. It starts today. Even if its starting is literally saving $5 a day. Your real estate investment career can start today if you'll take one repeatable, consistent action a day towards that goal, which is going to be forced savings and maybe working on your credit if you need to, living poor, shaving expenses, canceling Hulu, canceling Amazon Prime, whatever you got to do, okay? That's how it worked for me. That's how it can work for you. I'll catch you on the next video.